I handed my fiancé back his 7-year relationship and our 3-year engagement in the form of a diamond ring, not because I stopped loving him, but because I refused to be the other woman in his relationship with his mother. My world is built on contracts, commitments, and the clear, unshakable logic of cause and effect. As a lawyer, I live by the principle that agreements matter. For 7 years, my fiancé, Michael, an RN with a heart as big as the sky, was my partner in that world. We weren't just a couple, we were a unit building a life, a future, and now, raising our beautiful 7-month-old daughter. The stakes weren't about a wedding, they were about the sanctity of our family. My greatest principle is that the family you choose, the one you build with your partner, must come first. My deepest fear was that I had chosen a man who was incapable of making that same choice. The antagonist in my story isn't a villain from a fairy tale. She's a petite, soft-spoken woman named Carol, my future mother-in-law. She operates not with a dagger, but with a gentle, concerned tone that drips poison into every major decision we try to make. Her masterpiece of manipulation came a year ago. We loaned her $8,000 of our own savings, money we were putting aside for a house, so she wouldn't lose hers. 2 months later, when we tried to set a wedding date, she sat us down, her brow furrowed with that signature worry, and said, "With your money situation being so tight, kids, don't you think you should wait?" We had finally decided. August. It was going to be a simple, beautiful wedding in my mom's backyard, surrounded by 3 acres of green grass and a shimmering pond. A potluck. Low cost, low stress. Perfect. Michael had looked me in the eyes and promised, "I'm tired of listening to her. This is our date." Last weekend, it all came crashing down. My mother and Carol were over for dinner. The air was filled with the scent of roasted chicken and the happy babble of our daughter. I was excitedly talking to my mom, discussing the soft lavender color I hoped she'd wear as my matron of honor. From across the table, Carol's voice cut through the warmth. "So, when were you planning on telling me you'd picked a date?" Michael, bless his heart, tried. "We were going to tell everyone at the same time, Mom." "Oh," that was all she said. One syllable, but it was a black hole that sucked all the joy out of the room. She got quiet, a wounded, silent martyr, and left 20 minutes later. Michael, ever the dutiful son, had already made plans to go to her house to fix her cable box, a task that conveniently required his immediate attention. He left shortly after, leaving me with my mom and a suddenly sour glass of wine. As I watched his car pull away, a cold dread snaked its way up my spine. He was walking right back into the spider's web. I knew exactly what was happening in that house. It wouldn't be a lecture. It would be a masterclass in emotional manipulation, filled with sighs, disappointed looks, and questions framed as loving concern. He promised, I told myself, but the thought felt hollow. He promised this time would be different. When Michael got home hours later, the silence he brought with him was heavier than lead. He was quiet, distant, and when I asked if everything was okay, he just mumbled that he was tired and went to bed. The next night, as I was feeding the baby, he dropped the bomb. He didn't look at me. He just said, at random, "You know, my mom kind of has a point. Maybe we should wait until we buy a house. Our living situation is a bit unstable." She's not wrong. I didn't respond. A chilling, crystalline calm washed over me. The anger was so pure, so cold, it felt like ice water in my veins. This wasn't a discussion. This was a verdict. He kept talking, digging his own grave. "It'll only be a couple more years," he said, trying to sound reasonable. 5 at the most. 5 years. Another 5 years on hold for a woman who would find another excuse the moment the ink was dry on a mortgage. I walked over to him, the baby settled in her rocker. I took a deep breath, and with a hand that did not shake, I twisted the engagement ring off my finger. It felt surprisingly light. I held it out to him in my open palm. "I'm no longer interested," I said, my voice as calm and flat as a frozen lake. He stared at the ring, then at my face, his eyes wide with confusion and panic. "What are you talking about?" He tried to grab my hand, to force the ring back on my finger. I pulled back. "I am no longer interested in marrying you,"